Delivered to your door. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Hema and Badri are going to chant the Arunachala Mala.
Karunarunamani Kiranavalinika Tarumaksharamana Magilmalai Teruladiya Tiru Adiya Terumara Teliya Paravudal Porulaga Karunakarmuni Ramanariyanuva Gayinal Solliyadu Gatiyaga Arunachalamena Ahame Arivudu Alvar Sivanulagalvari Arunachalavarakketa Aksharamanamaalai saatra Karunakaraganapatiye Karamaruli kaappaye Arunachala Shiva Arunachala Shiva Arunachala Shiva Arunachala Arunachala Shiva Arunachala Shiva Arunachala Shiva Arunachala Arunachalamena agame நினைப்பவர் அகத்தை வேறறுப்பாய் அருணாச்சலா அழகு சுந்தரம் போல் அகமும் நீயும் முற்ற பின்னமாயிருப்போம் அருணாச்சலா அகம் புகுந்தீர்த்துன் அககுகை சீரையாய் அமர்வித்ததன் கொல்லருணாச்சலா ஆறு காயனை ஆண்டனை அகற்றிடும் அகிலம் பழித்திடும் அருணாச்சலா இப்பழித்த புனை ஏன் நினைப்பித்தார் இனியார் விடுவார் அருணாச்சலா ஈன்றிடும் மன்னையின் பெரிதருள் புரிவோய் இதுவோனதருள் அருணாச்சலா ஊனையே மாற்றி ஓடாதுள்ளத்தின் மேல் உறுதியாயிருப்பாய் அருணாச்சலா ஊர் சூற்றுளம் விடாதுனை கண்டடங்கிட உன்னழகை காட்டருணாச்சலா என்னை அழித்து போதெனை கலவாவிடு இதுவோ ஆண்மை அருணாச்சலா ஏன் இந்த உறக்கம் என்னை பிறரிழுக்க இது உனக்கழகோ அருணாச்சலா ஐம்புல கள்வர் அகத்தினில் புகும்போது அகத்தில் நீ இல்லையோ அருணாச்சலா. ஒருவனம் உன்னை ஒளித்தவர் வருவார் உன் சூதே இது அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. ஓங்கார பொருள் உயர்வில்லோய் உனையார் அறிவார் அருணாச்சலா. ஔவை போல் எனக்கு உன் அருளை தந்தனை ஆளுவதுன் கடன் அருணாச்சலா. கண்ணுக்கு கண்ணாய் கண்ணின்றி காணோனை காணுவதேவர் பார் அருணாச்சலா. காந்தம் இரும்பு போல் கவர்ந்தேனை விடாமல் கலந்தேனோடிருப்பாய் அருணாச்சலா. கிரி உருவாகிய கிருபை கடலே கிருபை கூர்ந்தருளுவாய் அருணாச்சலா. கீழ்மேலெங்கும் கிளரொளி மணியன் கீழ்மையை பாழ் செய் அருணாச்சலா. கூற்றமுற்றறுத்தெனை குணமாய் பணித்தாள் குரு உருவாயொளிர் அருணாச்சலா. கூர்வாள் கண்ணியர் கொடுமையில் படாதருள் கூர்ந்தேனை சேர்ந்தருள் அருணாச்சலா. கெஞ்சியும் வஞ்சியாய் கொஞ்சமும் இறங்கில் அஞ்சலென்றே அருள் அருணாச்சலா. கேளாதளிக்கும் கேடில் புகழை கேடு செய்யாதருள் அருணாச்சலா. கையினில் கனியுன் மெய்ரசம் கொண்டுவர் கைவேறி கொள்ளருள் அருணாச்சலா. கொடியீட்டடியரை கொல்லுனை கட்டி கொண்டெங்கன் வாழ்வேன் அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. கோபமில் குணத்தோய் குறியாயனை கொள்ள குறையன் செய்தேன் அருணாச்சலா. கௌதமர் போற்றும் கருணை மாமலையே கடை கணித்தாழ்வாய் அருணாச்சலா. சகலமும் விழுங்கும் கதிரொளியினமன ஜலஜமலர்த்தீடருணாச்சலா. சாப்பாடுன்னை சாந்துணவாயான் சாந்தமாய் போவன் அருணாச்சலா. சித்தம் குளிர கதிரத்தம் வைத்த முதமை தீரவருள் மதி அருணாச்சலா. சீரையடித்து நிர்வாணமாய் செய்தருள் சீரையடித்தருள் அருணாச்சலா. சுகக்கடல் பொங்க சொல்லுணர்வடங்க சும்மா பொருந்திடங்கருணாச்சலா. சூது செய்தென்னை சோதியதினி உன் ஜோதி ஒரு காட்டருணாச்சலா. செப்படி வித்தை கட்டிப்படி மயக்கு விட்டுருப்படு வித்தை காட்டருணாச்சலா. சேராய நின்மை நீராயுருவி கண்ணீராற்றழிவேன் அருணாச்சலா. செய்யன தள்ளில் செய்வினை சுடுமலா உய்வகையேதுரை அருணாச்சலா. சொல்லாது சொல்லினி சொல்லரனில் என்று சும்மாயிருந்தாய் அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. சோம்பிகை சும்மா சுகமுண்டுறங்கிடு சொல்வேரங்கதி அருணாச்சலா. சௌரியங்காட்டினை சழக்கற்றதென்றே சலியாதிருந்தாய் அருணாச்சலா. ஞமலியில் கேடாய் நான் என்னுருதியா நாடி நின்னுருவேன் அருணாச்சலா. ஞானமில்லாது உன் ஆசையற்றனர் ஞானம் தெரிதருள் அருணாச்சலா. நிமரு போல் நீயும் மலர்ந்திலை என்றே நேர் நின்றனையன் அருணாச்சலா. தத்துவம் தெரியா தத்தனையூற்றாய் தத்துவமிதுவென் அருணாச்சலா. தானே தானே தத்துவமிதனை தானே காட்டுவாய் அருணாச்சலா. திரும்பியகந்தனை தினமக கண்காண் தெரியும் என்றனையன் அருணாச்சலா. தீரமிலகத்தில் தேடி உந்தனையா திரும்ப உற்றேனருள் அருணாச்சலா. தூப்பறிவில்லா பிறப்பெண் பயனோப்பிடவாயேன் அருணாச்சலா. தூய் மனமொழியர் தோயும் உன்மெய்யகம் தோயவே அருளன் அருணாச்சலா. தெய்வமென்றுன்னை சாரவே என்னை சேர ஒழிப்பாய் அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. தேடாதூற்றனல் திருவருள் நிதியக தியக்கம் தீர்த்தருள் அருணாச்சலா. தைரியமோடு மெய்யகனாடைய தட்டழிந்தேன் அருள் அருணாச்சலா. தோட்டருள் கைமை கட்டிடாயினிலிய நட்டமாவேனருள் அருணாச்சலா. தோடமில் நீயகத்தோடொன்றி என்று சந்தோடம் ஒன்றிட அருள் அருணாச்சலா. நகைக்கிடமில்லை நின் நாடிய எனையருள் நகையிட்டு பார் நீ அருணாச்சலா. நானில்லை நாடிட நானாயொன்றி தானுவாய் நின்றனை அருணாச்சலா. நின்னெறி எரித்தனை நீராக்கிடுமுன் நின்னருள் மழை பொழி அருணாச்சலா. நீடானர புலி நிதங்களி மயமாய் நின்றிட நிலை அருள் அருணாச்சலா. நுண்ணுரு புனையான் விண்ணுரு நந்திட வெண்ணலையுருவென் அருணாச்சலா. நூலறிவறியா பேதையனென்றன் மாலறிவரு தருள் அருணாச்சலா. நேக்கு நெக்குருகியான் போக்கிட உனை புக நக்கன நின்றனை அருணாச்சலா. நேசமில் எனக்கு உன் ஆசையை காட்டி நீ மோசம் செய்யாதருள் அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல. நைந்தழி கனியாய் நலனில்லை பதத்தில் நாடி உட்கொள் நலம் அருணாச்சலா. நொந்திடதுந்தனை தந்தனை கொண்டிலை அந்தக நீ எனக்கு அருணாச்சலா. நோக்கியே கருதிமை தாக்கியே பக்குவம் ஆக்கி நீ ஆண்டருள் அருணாச்சலா. பற்றி மால்விடந்தலை போற்றிட மனமருள் பற்றிட அருள் புரி அருணாச்சலா. பார்த்தருள் மாலர பார்த்திலையினருள் பாருணக்கார் சொல்வர் அருணாச்சலா. பீத்து விட்டுனை நீர் பித்தனாக்கினை அருள் பீத்தம் தெளி மருந்தருணாச்சலா. பீதியில் உனை சார் பீதியில் என்னை சேர் பீதி உந்தனக்கே அருணாச்சலா. புல்லறிவேதுரை நல்லறிவேதுரை புல்லிடவே அருள் அருணாச்சலா. பூமண மாமண பூரண மணங்கொட பூரண மணமருள் அருணாச்சலா. பெயர் நினைத்திடவே பிடித்திழுத்தனை உன் பெருமையார் அறிவார் அருணாச்சலா. பேத்தனம் விட விட பேயாய் பிடித்தனை பேயன கைனையன் அருணாச்சலா. பைங்கொடியான பற்றின்றி வாடாம பற்று கூடாய் அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. பொடியான் மயக்கியன் போதத்தை பறித்து உன் போதத்தை காட்டினை அருணாச்சலா. போக்கும் வரவுமில் பொது வெளியினில் அருள் போராட்டங்காட்டருணாச்சலா. பௌதிக மாமுடல் பற்றற்று நானும் பவிஷ கண்டுறவருள் அருணாச்சலா. மலை மருந்திட நீ மலை திடவோ அருள் மலை மருந்தாயொளிர் அருணாச்சலா. மானங்கொண்டுருபவர் மானத்தை அழித்தவி மானமில்லாதொளிர் அருணாச்சலா. மிஞ்சிடில் கெஞ்சிடும் கொஞ்ச அறிவனியான் வஞ்சியாதருளெனை அருணாச்சலா. மீகாமலில்லாமல் மாகாற்றலைகளும் ஆகாமல் காத்தருள் அருணாச்சலா. முடியடி காண முடிவிடு தனை நேர் முடிவிட கடலில்லை அருணாச்சலா. மூக்கிலம் முன் காட்டு முகுரமாதேனை தூக்கியணைந்தருள் அருணாச்சலா. மெய்யகத்தின் மனமென் மலரணைய கரையில் நான் மெய் கலந்திட அருள் அருணாச்சலா. மேன்மேல் தாழ்ந்திடும் மெல்லிய சேர்ந்து மேன்மையுற்றன என் அருணாச்சலா. மைமயல் நீ தருள் மையினால் உனது உண்மை வசமாக்கினை அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. மொட்டையடித்தனை வெட்ட வெளியில் நீ நட்டமாடின என் அருணாச்சலா. மோகம் தவிர்த்து உன் மோகமவைத்துமென் மோகம் தீராயன் அருணாச்சலா. மௌனியாய் கற்போய் மலராதிருந்தால் மௌனமிதாமோ அருணாச்சலா. எவனின் வாயில் மண்ணினையாட்டி என் பிழை பொழித்த அருணாச்சலா. யாரும் அறியாது மதியினை மருட்டி எவர் கொலை கொண்ட அருணாச்சலா. ரமணன் என்று உரைத்தேன் ரோசம் கொள்ளாதெனை ரமித்திட செய்யவா அருணாச்சலா. ராப்பகலில்லா வெறுவெளி வீட்டு ரமித்திடுவோம் அருணாச்சலா. லட்சியம் வைத்தருள் அஸ்திரம் வேட்டேன் பக்ஷித்தாய் பிராணனோடு அருணாச்சலா. லாப நீக பர லாபமில்லையுற்று லாபமெனூற்றனை அருணாச்சலா. வரும்படி சொல்லில்லை வந்தன் படியள வருந்திடும் தலை வீதி அருணாச்சலா. வாவென்றகம்புக்குள் வாழ்வருளன்றே வாழ்விழந்தேன் அருள் அருணாச்சலா. வீட்டிடில் கஷ்டமாம் விட்டிடாதுனை உயிர் வீட்டிட அருள் பூரி அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. வீடு விட்டீர் துண வீடு பொக்க பையவன் வீடு காட்டினை அருள் அருணாச்சலா. வெளி விட்டேன் உன் செய்ய வெறுத்திடாதுன்னருள் வெளி விட்டனை அருணாச்சலா. வேதாந்தத்தை வேதர விளங்கும் வேத பொருளருள் அருணாச்சலா. வைதலை வாழ்த்தா வைத்தருள் கூடியாய் வைத்தனை விடாதருள் அருணாச்சலா. அம்புவிலாலி போல் அன்புரு முன்னிலை அன்பா கரைத்தருள் அருணாச்சலா. அருணை என்றென்னையான் அருள் கண்ணில் பட்டேன் அருள் வலை தப்புமோ அருணாச்சலா. செந்தே தருள் பட சிலந்தி போல் காட்டி சிறையேட்டுண்டனை அருணாச்சலா. அன்போடு நாம் அங்கே அன்பர்தம் அன்பரு கண்பனாயிட அருணாச்சலா. என்போலும் தீனரை இன்புற காத்து நீ என்னாலும் வாழ்ந்தருள் அருணாச்சலா. என்புரு கண்பர்தம் இன் சொற்கொள் சேவியுமே உன்மொழி கொள்ள அருள் அருணாச்சலா. பொறுமையம்பூதர புஞ்சொலை நன்சொல்ல பொறுத்தருளேஷ்டம் பின் அருணாச்சலா மாலையளி தருணாச்சல ரமணையன் மாலையணிந்தருள் அருணாச்சலா மாலையளி தருணாச்சல ரமணையன் மாலையணிந்தருள் அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா அருணாச்சலம் வாழி அன்பர்களும் வாழி அக்ஷரமணமாலை வாழி.
Thank you, Hema and Badri. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. I'm Mohan. Today, first I will read from Day to Day, Day by Day with Bhagavan. This is from May 31st, 1946. I will read two extracts. The first one is Mr. Phillips, an Englishman who used to be a missionary and is now a teacher and who has been said, I lost my son in the war. What is the way for his salvation? Bhagavan was silent for a while and then replied, your worry is due to thinking. Anxiety is a creation of the mind. Your real nature is peace. Peace has got to be achieved. Peace has not got to be achieved. It is our real nature. To find consolation, you may reflect, God gave, God has taken away. He knows the best. But the true remedy is to inquire into your true nature. It is because you feel that your son does not exist, you feel the grief. If you knew that he existed, you would not feel the grief. That means that the source of grief is mental and not an actual reality. There is a story given in some books how two boys went on a pilgrimage, and after some days, the news came back that one of them was dead. However, the wrong one was reported dead, and the result was that the mother who had lost her son went about as cheerful as ever, while the one who had still got her son was weeping and lamenting. So it is not any object or condition that causes the grief, but only our thought about it. Your son came from the south and was absorbed back into the south. Before he was born, where was he apart from the south? He is our self in reality. In deep sleep, the thought of I or child or death does not occur to you. And you are the same person who existed in sleep. If you inquire in this way and find out your real nature, you will know your son's real nature also. He is lost. You create a son in your mind that he is lost, but the soul, he always exists. What is the Jivagnani asked a question. What is the nature of life after physical death? Bhagavan, find out about your present life. Why do you worry about life after death? If you realize the present, you will know everything. I will read one more extract from July on July 12, 1946. On the date, news had come of the death of Madhava Swami, and Bhagavan had spoken a good deal of it. In the evening, Kunju Swami left for Kumbakonam, where the death took place, and this morning he returned. He said it seems that about 20 days before his death, Madhava Swami left Kumbakonam saying he was after he seems to have gone to Palghat and to his home village. When the post arrived, it brought a first daughter-in-law. This led Bhagavan to speak of death. He said that death is fortunate, it is only those who are left behind who feel miserable. It is our constant concern to bear the burden of this body and look after its needs. Day in, day out, this is our occupation. Bathing, eating, massaging our legs, and so on, no end to it. When we die, it takes 4 persons to carry the body, and we carry it about constantly without even stopping to think what we are doing. So, we can easily lift a heavy stone underwater, but as soon as we take it out, we find how heavy it is. And it is the same way. We don't feel the weight of the body as long as the Chaitanya or the life of force permeates it. Deathlessness is our real nature, and we falsely ascribe it to the body, imagining that it will live forever and losing sight of what it really is, immortal. Simply because we identify ourselves with the body, it says in the Upanishad that the Gnani looks forward eagerly to the time when he can throw off the body, just as a laborer carrying a heavy load looks forward to reaching his destinations and laying it down. About Martin Wolff. For me, whenever I think of Martin, 2 things stands out in my mind. To chant. His mission was to teach and propagate the Vedas. He took a lot of interest in helping fellow devotees to learn the Vedas. His intonation was so perfect, and he was a perfectionist. He had a very good knowledge of Sanskrit, and we at the Arunachala Ashram and elsewhere, we owe a deep gratitude to him for Veda chanting live on so many weekends. His devotion to Bhagavan was total and unqualified, even during times when his health was not in the best condition. He still made trips to Sri Ramana to spend time almost every year. For me personally, it's a matter of celebration than a homage, because to emulate the values in life he led, it's a great lesson for all of us. Definitely, he's in a better place at the lotus feet of Bhagavan. I had to tell very admirably about Billy Martin. Billy has been a source of strength. Her devotion to Bhagavan is so total, and her sincerity, and she's so unperturbed in many ways. I'm very sure she will carry out the wishes of Martin for years to come, and she will be a great source of strength for all of us here and elsewhere. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Now, Sushila Ramana and Aruna Ramkumar will chant.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. I would like to say a few sentences before we begin the chanting. We have all gathered to honor a dear brother devotee, Mr. Martin Wolff, who merged with Arunachala Ramana on Friday. My family has known Martin for over 15 years. We will cherish his natural calmness, warmth, and exuberant positivity. We looked forward to welcoming him to our satsangs in Farmington, along with Billy, seeing him at Arunachala Ashrama satsangs. We will miss all that. It is remarkable that my children, Siddharth and Swarupa, also remember him with warmth and respect. We have also enjoyed looking at his photographs from India and from the US, for they captured the essence and joys of life. They presented a glimpse into his inner workings. With that, we'll present Ekatma Panchakam chanting in Malayalam, as it is traditionally done in Ramanashram on Sunday evenings.
Atmasvarupamam tanne maranniha sharirate Atmavenodarichenda illada janmam Eduthalangodu viltan Swarupathil unarnadai vasipadu paarthidugil tarayilengum tendithiriyunnadai കണ്ടകീനാവൂവിട്ടോണൽ നിണ്ടലേതുകൂടാതിരി അതുപോലെയാം ആത്മാവായ്തനിരിക്കവേ താനാരെന്നോ താനെങ്ങെന്നോ കേൾപ്പതവനവൻ മദ്യപാനം ചെയ്തിഹ ഞാനാരെന്നോ ഞാനെങ്ങെന്നോ അസംബന്ധം പുലമ്പേടും മദ്യപാനിക്കു തന്നെ സമാനമാകും ഊടലാത്മാവിനുള്ളിലെ ഇരിക്കവേ ആത്മാവിനെ ജഡമാകുമൂടൽക്കുള്ളായി കരുതും മദ്യം ചിത്രത്തിനാധാരമായി തത്ര സ്ഥിതി ചെയ്തിടുന്ന വസ്ത്രം ചിത്രത്തിനുള്ളിലായി ധരിക്കുന്നവൻ സ്വർണത്തിൽ നിന്നു ഭിന്നമ ഉണ്ടോ നീല ഭൂഷണത്തെ എന്ന പോലെ ആത്മാവിങ്കൽ നിന്നു ഭിന്നമാം ഉണ്ടോ ശരീരമൊന്നീഹ ജ്ഞാനഹീനൻ ശരീരത്തെ ആത്മാവായി നീനച്ചിടോ തന്നെ അറിഞ്ഞ ജ്ഞാനിയോ തന്നെ ആത്മാ തന്നെ കണ്ടിടുന്നു പരമാർത്ഥമിതു വീതം ധാരിച്ചു കൊള്ളുക എന്നോ നിൽപ്പതാകും സത്യവസ്തു ആത്മാവൊന്നെ ആ വസ്തുവേ ആദി ഗുരു ചൊല്ലാതെ ചൊല്ലി അറിയിച്ചുതെന്നോ വെച്ചലവരണേ വണിങ്കതു ആരംഗിഹതരിവിപ്പാൻ കഴിയോ ചൊൽക ഏകാത്മാവിന്ദത്വമീത് എന്നോടത്തി അൻപരുടെ ദേഹാത്മഭാവബന്ധത്തെ ചെയ്തരിപ്പിച്ചു ഏകാത്മജ്ഞാനസ്വരൂപ നായ ഗുരു രമണൻ താൻ സ്വന്നദാഭൂമി ഏകാത്മ പഞ്ചഗത്തിങ്കൽ സ്വന്നദാഭൂമി ഏകാത്മ പഞ്ചഗത്തിങ്കൽ.
Om Namo
ഭഗവതേ ശ്രീരമണായ.
Thank you, Sushila Mami and Aruna, Ram Kumar. Now, Anand Ramanan, President of the Sri Ramana Ashramam, will talk now. Anand Ramana.
Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Dear friends in Sri Bhagavan, we are gathered here today to celebrate the life of our dear friend Martin Wolff, and by doing so, carry over the inspiration of his life to our own lives. A life of sadhana and dedicated devotion to Sri Bhagavan, Arunachala, and Advaita Vedanta. I wish that we could have all been physically present at the shrine in Arunachala Ashrama and possibly comforting his lovely wife, Billy Martin, a perfect companion to Martin in all ways, especially in his spiritual path and a fellow devotee of Sri Bhagavan. Friends, when you think of Martin, what is the first thought that comes to you? Vedic chanting, right? Martin's Vedic chanting, along with Peter Fell, Swaminathan, and Rishabha, has come to represent the culmination of all Arunachala Ashrama's functions. It would transport the group of devotees present to a place in time where Vedas reigned supreme. His voice, perfect intonation, would seamlessly take one deeper to a meditative state. On a lighter note, one would be happy that the functions were ending, as the climax of the function, the Vedic chanting, could then begin. Personally, I came to know Martin around early 2000 through personal friend Peter Burking. A dedicated group of seekers, including Peter and Martin, would go to Sri Ramanashramam every year for around 3 weeks. Around 2006, at a function in Arunachala Ashrama, The usually smiling and relaxed Martin approached me looking a little serious. His lung function, pulmonary function, was worsening, and he was started on immunosuppressive medications. His lung doctor at Columbia had forbidden him from any long distance travel, especially to India, and staying in India for 3 weeks was a definite no-no. They were worried about him contracting tuberculosis, all kinds of fungal infection. Martin told me that the visits to Arunachala and to the ashram was something he looked forward to for the rest of the year, and he could not imagine ever not doing that. He was willing to risk anything to be able to go on the trip. So we came on some plan where he would go to the ashram, stay inside the ashram, and not visit any places in India. Needless to say that by Sri Bhagavan's grace, he had a medically uneventful trip. On coming back, he called me and said, Bhagavan gave me 2 gifts on this trip. Number 1, I returned back healthy. I did not catch even a single cold while I was there. And I was able to chant in the ashram every day. Number 2, by not traveling anywhere, I was able to be fully present in his presence inside the ashram for the entire 3 weeks and felt this was the most powerful trip from a sadhana standpoint of view. Later on, he was concerned that his condition and the medicines that he took for it was affecting his chanting. A standing conversation between us every time we met would be, this is probably the last function I'm chanting on, and he would say, concerned. No, Martin, by Bhagavan's grace, you chanted till the end for every function, including this year's Global Jayanti function. When I called Ramanashramam's priest, Sri Nagarajan, yesterday to light a moksha deepam at Sri Bhagavan's shrine, I was expecting a struggle to give the right name to him. However, as soon as I said Martin of New York, he spontaneously said in Tamil, "Oh, nalla theriyume, dinam vedam nalla solvar." He said, to translate, "Oh, Martin, I know very well. He chants very well the Vedas." So, Martin, your voice will never be silenced by any disease. Friends, I join you in praying for his mukti and merger with the lotus feet of Sri Bhagavan. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Thank you, Anand. Now, Evelyn Safier will speak a few words. Evelyn. Evelyn. Okay, we'll get back to Evelyn. Now, Ganesh is going to speak a few words.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Evelyn, please.
So sorry, I forgot to unmute.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. Please go ahead, yeah.
Greetings to our family of Bhagavan from Sri Ramanachalam Mandir in Ogdensburg, New York. A beautiful, simple shrine with pictures of Rita and Jean-Luc, all the manifestation of the devotion of Padmanabhan of Ottawa, and created with the help of Dennis and Jim Hartle. Sending to you, Billy, All love and prayers for peace. You always have a guest room in the Thousand Islands. Martin was and is the most beautiful soul. What can we say? Thinking of Martin, I seem to hear his voice again and again. Soft, thoughtful, redolent of kindness, Martin's voice spoke volumes of the inner man. A gentle soul, Martin's being was a blessing to the earth, to his family, to his New York ashram friends, and to the larger community of devotees by virtue of his nobility and his unadulterated devotion to Sri Ramana Arunachala. Sanskrit, chanting, and music were integral to Martin's spiritual path. I personally was so impressed when, on having a slip on ice and breaking his veena, Martin declined to replace it, saying that perhaps it had fed his ego. Perhaps Bhagavan was asking that he let it go. Such was his inner surrender and his attitude of listening for the voice of Bhagavan. Martin was also a photographer with an artist's eye. Divinity reveals itself in his photos of the shining faces of the humble people whom he had encountered and befriended around the holy hill, as well as in the beauty of plants and flowers near his home, all divinity manifest. Of course, Martin was blessed with the long companionship of his soulmate, Billy, a woman adept in ushering new life into the world in her calling as midwife. I pray that Billy and all her family may be blessed with the unshakable conviction that our spirits never die. I believe that we are a band of devotees destined to march together to the goal. Some of us may break free earlier than others, but we are basically in this together. Martin was never a call up and chat kind of friend to me, but this feels to me so immaterial, as the quality of his devotion and life have so enriched, ennobled, and uplifted us all on the path. Sri Bhagavan himself said of Chadwick, he was with us before, how else could he be here now? Walking the sacred path around the holy hill together. That's us. That's us devotees all circling the hill, gazing entranced on its never-ending charm that unfailingly draws our minds to the center. This is us, devotees all, going inward ever deeper into the heart center, wherever we may be, marching on the sacred path of self-inquiry, guided by the glorious glance of grace of our Bhagavan. However could we be more blessed?
Thank you, Evelyn. Now, Ganesh is going to chant. Ganesh.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Before I wanted to sing a song composed by Sri Ilayaraja on Bhagavan, but before that I wanted to share a few words about our beloved friend Martin and my fond memories of my interactions with him for the past 10 plus years at Arunachal Ashram. Like everyone else, I was amazed by Sri Martin's diction and clarity and intonation in the pronunciation of the Vedas. Many a times I have been fortunate to have accompanied him at Arunachala Ashrama during the Veda chanting, which usually happens at around 3 p.m. or so, right after one of those big celebrations. It could be the Jayanti or the Aradhana, or it could be the Advent, or even our Mahashivaratri functions. And I had reached out to him many times to get the right pronunciation and the diction so that I could correct myself. Right from Sri Rudram, even the Gana Parayanam of Sri Rudram to all the Shuktams, Sri Suktam, Narayana Shuktam, Durga Shuktam, to name a few. I'm deeply grateful to Sri Martin for correcting me and then making me aware of the nuances and the intricacies when it comes down to chanting of those Vedas. Way back in 2014, I think it was in March 23rd, if I remember the date right, in 2014, after getting the blessings from Sri Ramana Ashramam and Arunachala Ashrama, we decided to start a satsang at home in New Jersey. And we wanted to have a Veda chanting and Bhagavan's chanting of works on a day-to-day basis as part of our daily routine. And Martin, Peter, Dennis, Shri Mohan, and other fellow devotees from Arunachala Ashram graciously accepted our request, and they made their presence, and they laid that foundation for us at Tiruchuri Illam in New Jersey, which is a practice which is continuing up to this day. So with my humble namaskarams to Sri Martin on this wonderful day, where we all have fond remembrances of him. And as Sri Mohan said, it's a joy of, it's a moment of celebration of remembering Martin on this beautiful day. I would like to start off with a song composed by Sri Ilayaraja on Bhagavan. The essence of the song is a plea made to Bhagavan to rush and to subside our treacherous mind. It's a plea to Bhagavan to rush in fulfilling our request, the purpose of our birth. And in fact, towards the end, the composer pleads to Bhagavan, saying that out of crores and crores of devotees who have flocked to your lotus feet, O Bhagavan, I am the lowly one. I'm standing at the end. I'm standing at the last. So please rush so that I may not return again. Arunamalai Guru Ramana, Karunai Arul Vizhivadana. Arunamalai Guru Ramana, Karunai Arul Vizhivadana. மனது ஒன்று இருக்கிறதே, எனது என்று தவிக்கிறதே, எனது மனம் அழிந்திடவே அருள் புரிவாய், அருள் புரிவாய். அருணமலை குரு ரமணா, கருணை அருள் விழிவதனா. தனித்திருக்கும் தாகம் கொண்டேன், தயவும் உனக்கு இல்லையோ? பனித்த விழி நீரும் எந்த நிலையை கூறவில்லையோ? இனியும் காலம் தாழ்த்தாமல் கனிவாம் பார்வை தர வேண்டும். பிரிதாம் பிறவி நோய் தீர்த்து இனி பிறவா வரமும் பெற வேண்டும். அந்தம் கடந்த ஆதியே உனை சொந்தம் என்று பாடினேன். அச்சம் தோற்றும் பூமியில் வினை மிச்சம் தொலைய நாடினேன். கோடி கோடி அடியவரில் நான் தான் கடை கோடி ஐயா. அருணமலை குரு ரமணா, கருணை அருள் விழிவதனா. மனது ஒன்று இருக்கிறதே, எனது என்று தவிக்கிறதே, எனது மனம் அழிந்திடவே அருள் புரிவாய், அருள் புரிவாய். அருணமலை குரு ரமணா, கருணை அருள் விழிவதனா. உன் பெயரை ஓதும் யாரும் உயர்ந்த ஓர் பிறவியே, தம் துயரை தீர்க்க எமக்கு கிடைத்த ஓர் கருவியே. உன்னை தொழுதல் பெரும் பேறு செய்வேன் என்ன கைமாறு. ஐயன் அருளை பெறுமாறு செய்தாய் அது என் அருட்பேறு. உன் கடனை தீர்க்கும் வழி ஒன்றும் நான் காணா நிலையுமாகுமோ. என் உடலை தீபதிரியாக்கி அதை எரித்தால் கூட போதுமோ. என் பிதற்றல் பிள்ளை மொழியல்ல ரமணன் விளக்கின் ஒளியன்றோ. அருணமலை குரு ரமணா கருணை அருள் விழிவதனா. மனது ஒன்று இருக்கிறதே எனது என்று தவிக்கிறதே. எனது மனம் அழிந்திடவே அருள் புரிவாய் அருள் புரிவாய். அருணமலை குரு ரமணா கருணை அருள் விழிவதனா. ஓம் நமோ பகவதே ஸ்ரீ ராமச்சந்திர.
Thank you, Ganesh. Now, Peter Berting will give a talk. Peter Berting has been involved with Martin for the longest time of all the devotees I know. To give a brief thing, they always traveled together to India so many times to Ramanashramam.
Thank you, Mohan.
Spiritual path for a very long. Go ahead, Peter Berting.
Thank you, Mohan.
Thank you.
It's my great pleasure to speak for a few minutes about my dear friend and brother devotee, Martin Wolff. My association with Martin goes back to about 1996, when we were fellow students of an Advaita teacher named Gangaji. We were both quite familiar with Bhagavan, since Gangaji was a devotee of H.W.L. Punja, who was with Bhagavan while he was in the body. Martin and I decided we wanted to travel to Sri Ramanashramam to walk where Bhagavan walked, touch what he touched, and experience for ourselves the grace emanating from the place where Bhagavan inhabited this earth and where his Guru Arunachala was located. So Martin and I went there for the first time in 2002. After going to Ramanashram then, it became clear to us that we were truly Bhagavan devotees. So we dropped our affiliation with Gangaji and joined local satsang groups, which for Martin was Arunachala Ashrama, and for me was Anand's group in Washington, D.C. We went together to the ashram for a few weeks, almost every year after that, until the pandemic hit last year. Some of the most connected and precious moments I've ever experienced with another human being were with Martin, happening over a total of almost a year's time that we spent at the ashram, usually as roommates there, and including, of course, all the travel to and from the ashram, and also at our respective houses when he visited me in DC or I visited him in New Jersey. What I discovered in getting to know Martin was that there were some deep connections in our individual personal histories. For example, we both started pursuing an interest in Bhagavan's teaching at the same time in 1986 by reading talks. Also, before he and I were brother disciples of Bhagavan, we were students of another pair of brother disciples. Martin was a student of Swami Shantananda Saraswati through an organization he was a member of, and I was a student of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi of TM fame. These two were brother disciples of Swami Brahmananda, the Shankaracharya of Jyotirmat. This meant that he and I learned the same meditation technique through different pathways and probably had the same mantra. We could not verify this because we were forbidden to reveal our mantra. Maharishi branded the meditation technique as TM, Transcendental Meditation, and Swami Shantananda called it Bijam Mantra. My path and Martin's path were intertwined like this in many other ways. I have no doubt that this was all arranged by Bhagavan. This common background was, of course, a powerful driver for our friendship, but I would attribute our close relationship mainly to being brother devotees, or you could say friends in Bhagavan. That is, our shared desire to understand and apply Bhagavan's teaching naturally drove us to be friends and support each other in our shared goal of self-realization. This mutual support and friendship is, of course, an important part of Bhagavan's sadhana for all of his devotees. The more friendly and supportive we are towards our fellow devotees, the more we experience one another not as other, but as our own self. This then drives us to greater heights of friendship and support. That is how the cycle builds on itself and keeps accelerating, keeps accelerating us towards the goal. So my experience of being friends in Bhagavan with Martin reinforces to me that the quest for self-realization is a group effort. It is Bhagavan's will for us. As I wrote recently to a devotee who is a prison inmate in Texas, you are not alone in this quest. The devotees are here to support you. This love and friendship between devotees is something you can't really experience unless you're a devotee yourself. It is something I think we all experience every time we get together for these satsang meetings, or even in social events outside of satsang. It is something that I hope we all continue to treasure and aspire to, even though we are currently restricted to online meetings only. It is my fervent wish that my account of being friends in Bhagavan with Martin inspires you to further cherish your relationships with other devotees as an instrument of sadhana and grace. Your fellow devotees are a gift from Bhagavan in this way. All of this is not to say that my friendship with Martin was based only on being brother disciples. It was based also on all the human factors that drive friendships. Martin was an inherently likable person. He was friendly, compassionate, and considerate to all, and engendered friendliness from everyone, devotees or not. He and I had tremendous mutual affection and respect, apart from any spiritual connection. Our attitudes, thoughts, and feelings were amazingly in sync. We seemed to know what each other was thinking. Sometimes I would say something Martin was about to say, and vice versa, with uncanny premonition. I want to say a few words about how unique Martin was. Think about how rare it is to be chosen by Bhagavan to be one of his devotees, but on top of that, to be chosen as a non-Brahmin Westerner to learn Vedas. Martin had to really persevere through significant hurdles to pursue this desire to learn Vedas in a traditional Vedic learning context. I think most of you have seen the fruits of his labor. You probably have seen Martin chant Vedas expertly and exquisitely on many occasions at the ashram. When he was at Sri Ramana ashram, he would sing every afternoon in the main hall, along with the Veda Pathashala. He also recorded 2 CDs of his chanting, one called I Do Nothing at All, and one called Shakti Bhakti, which you can actually get on Amazon.com. One of my fondest memories of Martin is going out on production with him on the inner path through the woods and hearing him sing Vedas as the sun was rising. It doesn't get any better than that. In closing, I would like to honor Martin's wife, Billy, and their 2 daughters, Alicia and Diana, for supporting Martin as only a loving family can, especially through this long illness. Billy is an ardent Bhagavan devotee and has been a close friend in Bhagavan to me, along with Martin. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Thank you, Peter, for sharing your friendship and also your long journey with Martin. Thank you again. Now, Lavanya Hari is going to chant.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Mona Rupa Guruve Namo Nama Jnana Deva Aruna Namo Nama Unamatra Kumara Namo Nama Guru Ramana Samave காமம் வெல்ல கதியே நமோ நம சாமம் வந்த திருவே நமோ நம திருரமணா பாசம் வீட்ட பதியே நமோ நம வாசம் கேட்ட நிறையே நமோ நம நீசம் தள்ளும் நிலையே நமோ நம அருள் ரமணா தீபம் எங்கும் வளரும் நமோ நம சாபம் நீங்கும் குருவே நமோ நம தாமம் போக்கும் துணையே நமோ நம கருரமணா ஆதி அந்தம் அழித்தாய் நமோ நம ஓதி ஓங்க ஒலித்தாய் நமோ நம ஞாதி எந்தை அனைத்தும் நமோ நம இரு ரமணா மேவி வந்த உருவே நமோ நம வாவி தந்த தருவே நமோ நம யாவிலுள்ள இருப்பே நமோ நம உரு ரமணா காண கண்ணில் களிப்பே நமோ நம பேண நின்ற பெருமா நமோ நம ஆணவத்தை அறுத்தே நமோ நம ஒளி ரமணா நாணர் கண்டே அருளே நமோ நம ஆனந்தத்தில் அமர்ந்தே நமோ நம தானாய் நின்றே ஒளிர்வாய் நமோ நம நமோ ரமணா நமோ ரமணா ஓம் நமோ பகவதே ஸ்ரீ ரமணாய.
Thank you, Lavanya Hari. Now, Peter Fell is going to talk about Martin. Peter?
Namaskar, everyone. I'd like to share some thoughts and memories about my connection with Martin. My first recollection of meeting Martin was at the Clyde Street ashrama almost 20 years ago. Our connection steadily developed with time as we began to have regular meetings for Veda Parayanam, or the chanting of the Vedas, which in those days, thanks to the inspiration of Arthur Kukavitis, were called live Vedas. During live Vedas, generally held on Saturday evenings, my acquaintance with Martin deepened into a special friendship. I remember Martin mentioned that when he first heard the chanting of the Ganapati Atharva Shirsha Upanishad, he had been amazed at the power and majesty of the sound. And I think that may have been the first time he heard Vedic chanting. He decided that he wanted to learn Vedic chanting, so studied Sanskrit and the Devanagari scripts diligently. Martin was blessed to have studied with one of the most influential teachers over the past decades, Dr. Srinivasan Yajna Subramanian, who was not just deeply steeped in the Vedas, but has also been an energetic leader in the promulgation of Sanatana Dharma, having received the honorary title Dharmatma, saintly person, from the Sringeri Shankaracharya about 8 years ago. Martin used to tell me how he approached Dr. Yajna Subramanian and asked for instruction in the Veda Parayanam. Dr. Yajna Subramanian responded that he would teach Martin, but only chanting, not the performance of pujas, since he was not born as a Brahmana. Even so, how many Westerners have had instruction in the tradition of Veda Parayanam from such a revered teacher? I think that Dr. Yajna Subramanian saw that Martin was a deeply devoted sadhaka, who in his own way might then go on to benefit many other devotees with the power of the Vedas and through his own instruction, which he certainly did. It was amazing that Martin and I chanted almost identically, even though our teachers were trained in different parts of India. We could chant together, and both of us would blend with the other, and both would support the other. This is certainly a tribute to the purity of the Veda Parayana tradition, with which Martin felt such a connection. Martin had not just learned the Veda Parayanam, but had also taken the effort, as Peter Berking said, to make several CDs that were used by various religious groups and by devotees. His wonderful humility is shown in the notes accompanying the CD Shakti Bhakti of 2006. And I quote Martin here: "All Vedic chants, words, and pitches are according to Vedic tradition, as taught by Dr. Srinivasan Yajna Subramanian, except that any errors are attributable to Martin Wolff," unquote. The live Veda events at the ashrama were a wonderful way, as Martin said numerous times, to offer Veda Parayanam, or Veda Seva, to the ashrama. When we would schedule the next event, Martin would normally write to Dennis or Bandhu to confirm the date and would say, "Peter and I would like to offer Veda Parayanam." This really shows the spirit with which Martin approached Vedic chanting. When devotees would come to the ashrama and hear the Vedas, it was Martin who could speak to them experientially of the impact of Vedas and their ability to still the mind. It was he who had the authority to speak like this. I always deferred to him because I felt that Martin had truly been transformed by the tradition and could speak from experience. I remember that towards the end of every Veda Parayanam event, whether in the evening or during the day, as we were coming to the end and the final chanting of Nakarmana, Martin would put on his woolen shawl, depending upon the weather, and make himself ready to sit for meditation with no break as soon as the last mantra was chanted. He felt clearly the impact of the Vedas in clearing the mind and leaving it still and one-pointed. And he could convey that experience to devotees. Martin and I continued to offer Veda Parayanam every other week or so when the ashrama moved to Edgerton Boulevard. After a suggestion by Sri Komal Mama, he decided to change into dhoti and angavastram prior to chanting, as a way of honoring the tradition. This had the unlooked for benefit of allowing us time privately to speak in person before and after each Veda Parayanam event, when we changed out of and then back into Western clothes. We talked about the impact of Martin's sarcoidosis on his health and his ability to chant that day, but also about Veda Parayanam, events in our lives, and in our families, and so many things that two friends with a common interest would discuss. Martin's health challenges were not easy. There were issues with the lungs and breathing that seemed to worsen with time. He had very bad migraines. More recently, I believe, he had developed serious back pain. The fact that Martin continued to come regularly to the ashrama in Queens from New Jersey multiple times per month speaks of his willingness to move forward, notwithstanding all the physical obstacles. Even as the sarcoidosis created difficulties in chanting, Martin was focused just on doing the best possible chanting at that given time, all things considered. I never heard him complain about the physical challenges he faced. He placed enormous importance on listening to other members of the group chanting to ensure that everyone was together. No matter how he felt on any given occasion, he would still adhere to this same approach. Martin was a very generous person and taught Veda Parayanam to many people with patience, determination, and skill. He was an excellent teacher. He had gone through the process of learning and was alert to the issues that can arise. He had thoroughly learned the technique, the rules, and the vocabulary, and so had the tools for teaching. His Veda Parayanam students were not just in the US, but also overseas. His teaching extended beyond Vedic chanting. For example, he recently taught members of a yoga community how to pronounce Sanskrit correctly. Martin was my guru too, as he taught me the Ganapati Atharva Shirsha Upanishad, which we would chant together at the Veda Parayanam events. He also taught several of us the Mahashanti mantras, mantras that convey great peace. That instruction ended on February 1st, 2020. That was the last time I ever saw Martin in person because of the pandemic. I feel a special bond with Martin's other students, as we are all Guru Bhais, students of the Guru. The Mahashanti mantras were very special to Martin. He only started to chant them at the ashrama in the around early 2019 during the Veda Parayanams. Martin chanted them solo at the end of the program, after the Upadesha Saram and before the final Nakarmana. Their power in Martin's rendition was such that after he first chanted them, I could not chant from memory the Nakarmana afterwards, even though I had previously done so for many years. I could only hear Martin's voice and the echoes of peace from Martin's chanting. After that, I made sure to have the text open for Nakarmana so as to be able to continue without break after Martin had finished the solo chanting. During the pandemic, Martin and I would chant almost every week via WhatsApp. We would alternate back and forth between the mantras since it was impossible to hear each other if we both chanted simultaneously. This was a wonderful time for us both, as we benefited from the practice in this different format. Our last such session was over the weekend of February 6th, less than a month ago. Martin was attuned to the very sound itself of the Vedas. He had a clear sense that those sounds were in themselves deeply purifying. He would often comment after our WhatsApp sessions that it was wonderful just to hear the sound vibrations of the chanting. Martin had a deep connection with Sri Bhagavan's teachings and found in the Rig Veda hymn, the Nasadiya Suktam, a special echo of those teachings. He said that it had a strange power for him. So Martin learned the Nasadiya Suktam some years ago. In our Veda Parayanam events at the ashram, when we would chant the Taittiriya Upanishad, he would start by chanting the Nasadiya Suktam. He also chanted that hymn at least once during the twice monthly Zoom satsangas of the ashrama that had been held during the pandemic. In fact, he shared with me his own translation, adapted from various academic translations into a form that crystallized its meaning most directly for him. Martin was incredibly generous. He would take time out to write notes of support to me. For example, I lost my voice for about a year, starting in early 2012, and could not speak, let alone chant, for any length of time. During the Advent celebration in September 2012, we were all gathered as usual after prasadam to chant the Sri Rudram Chamakam and other hymns. I just sat with the group without participating. Martin wrote me a note afterwards to say how much he valued that I was sitting listening, even though I was not able to chant. Martin had the ability to speak and write from the heart. It was disarming how clearly one could tell that he was communicating directly from his own experience. This is from an email of December 2018. Quote, I think it's great that our differences in tuning are so accommodatable, and that we can work together in earnest, though it seems as if we are in different places physically. That is the jiva viewpoint, but the Guru says it is not so. There is only one, and if that is at least acknowledged, even before the full realization of it, it is possible to work together with that oneness as the base, rather than the usual separate idea. I am so grateful for a partnership like this. I look forward to our continuing work together in an effort to offer the community that which is beyond the jivas supposedly making that effort, unquote. More than anything else, what I treasured in Martin was his warmth, a generosity of spirit that made one feel that the ego is just a very small thing. He once said to me that he had a sense or intuition that the ego did not exist. I could feel that in my interactions with Martin. And I always felt inspired by him. Years ago, I began to feel that Martin was like an older brother to me. Since I have only one sibling, an older sister, his role in my life was completely unique. With Martin's passing, it is like a beloved member of our family has departed. I am only one of many, many people who will miss him terribly. Most of all, his loving wife, Billy, and his entire family. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana.
Thank you, Peter, for sharing so many details about your long association with Martin. Thank you again. Now, Asha Muni will chant. Asha.
Namaskar, everyone. I've had the good fortune and blessing to join voices with Martin many times in singing and chanting. Like his presence, his voice was gentle, soothing, and meditative. It grounded me, and the music that came out was always richer for it. Martin often dismissed with a laugh that his voice was too soft, not enough power, but that is not true. It was this quality of softness and meditative quietness that pierced the heart. It was like the light at dawn, which does not have the blazing sun, but which connects deeply with one's spirit. I remember he used to come before the live Vedas to practice. He and Billy came, and there was much laughter and teasing, and I made tea for him, his fantasy masala tea, which he liked so much. And then after talking and laughter, we sat down to practice, up with the perfect pitch to sing, to practice so that we always sang in harmony. Martin insisted on this. He was a perfectionist about fine-tuning it so that the voices sounded as one. And in learning to sing, in learning to join his voice with my own was like a sadhana, because you have to be very present and out of your head in order to come out, for the music to come out as one. Later on, Martin was generous enough to try to teach me the Vedas. He was extremely patient, as Peter said, and He was a stickler for the pronunciation and intonation of every word. Today, to honor his memory, I would like to sing a shloka that I used to sing with him. And just to feel like I'm singing with him again, I am going to play a recording from his CD, The Shakti Bhakti, and sing along with it. Thank you, Martin, for your friendship, your wisdom, for enriching my music and my life. Vande Devanamapatim Vande Jagatkaranam Vande Pannagabhushanam Mrigadaram Vande Pashunam Patim Vande Surya Shashanka Nayanam Vande Mukunda Priyam Vande Bhakta Janashraya Chavaradam Vande Shivam Shankaram Vande Devanamapatim Suragurum Vande Jagatkaranam Vande Pannagabhushanam Mrigadaram Vande Pashunam Patim Vande Surya Shashanka Nayanam Vande Kunda Vande Bhakta Janashraya Chavaram Vande Shivam Shankaram Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Thank you, Asha. Now, Guru Nath Netravali is going to talk a few words. Guru Nathji.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. The first time I heard of Martin was from a friend of mine who had nothing to do with Bhagavan or his devotees. When I mentioned to her that I had been to the Arunachala Ashrama in the late 90s when I came to the US for the first time, she mentioned she's an international ticket agent, and she said she buys tickets for this gentleman who visits Tiruvannamalai every year. And she mentioned his name was Martin Wolff. That name stuck to me. And the next time I visited Arunachala Ashrama, I saw Martin there reciting the Vedas, but I did not know who he was at that point in time. So subsequently, I got to know him well when he attended the New Jersey satsangs. At one of our satsangs, he recited the Rudram along with Peter and Swami. I was amazed by the ease with which he chanted the Rudram. He also recited the Nirvana Shatakam and the Ganapati Atharva Shirsha at some of the other satsangs that he attended here at New Jersey. I also had the privilege to meet Martin and Billy a couple of times at Tiruvannamalai when I visited there. I vividly remember him with the Ramana Ashramam bag slung over his shoulder, and his large smile and deep laugh when we spoke. I could see how Bhagavan had influenced his life and the love he had for Bhagavan. I remember after one of the recitals, my wife Leena told him he must have been a priest in his previous life because he chanted so well. And he laughed and agreed and said, yes, I must have been. Martin has reached the lotus feet of Bhagavan, but to paraphrase Bhagavan's words, where can Martin go? He's always with us. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Thank you, Gurunaji. Now, Gayatri Govinda is going to chant.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. I'll be chanting a few verses from Ashtavakra Gita. Ashtavakra Gita is a very valuable work containing the highest Advaitic teaching imparted by sage Ashtavakra to King Janaka by means of a conversation. Being a ripe soul, King Janaka became self-realized by following the teaching of Ashtavakra. A limited edition, a circulation carrying the Kannada translation of Ashtavakra Gita, along with the English translation of Swami Nitya Swarupananda of Ramakrishna Mission, was published by the Mysore Palace. A copy of it was presented to Sri Bhagavan by the Maharaja of Mysore in 1932. The specialty of the copy presented to Sri Bhagavan is that he has copied the original Sanskrit text in his own hand in the free space above the Kannada version. Ashtavakra Gita was always commended by Sri Bhagavan for study by seekers. This is just of the story before the verses. Ashtavakra was born of Kahoda and Sujata. While Ashtavakra was still in his mother's womb, Kahor was once reciting the Vedas sitting beside his wife. To their great surprise, the child in the womb suddenly cried out, "Father, even lying in my mother's womb, I've already learned all the Vedas through your grace. But I regret that you often make mistakes in your recitation." Kahor took this as a grave insult and cursed him, saying that he would be born with 8 parts of his body deformed. Accordingly, in course of time, the child was born with a twisted form and was named Ashtavakra, or the 8-curved. In the meanwhile, Kahor went to the court of King Janaka to beg money from the king. The king had at the time in his court a great scholar called Vandi, son of King Varuna. He was profoundly versed in Vedas. Kahor was called to a debate by him and was defeated and thrown into the sea, where he had to be engaged as a priest in a sacrifice performed by Varuna. When Ashtavakra grew to be a lad of 12 and heard of the sad plight of his father, he repaired to the court of Janaka in company with his maternal uncle, Swetaketu. Being a mere boy, he was not at first allowed entrance into the court, but when he gave proof of his extraordinary learning in the Shastras, he was cordially welcomed. He at once sought out his father's opponent, Vandi, and entered into a debate with him. A wonderful controversy ensued, and the boy of 12 defeated the foremost veteran scholar of the court of Janaka. He rescued his father from the grip of Varuna. Kahor was highly satisfied with his son and asked him to bathe in the river Samanga, and lo, he came out of the waters with all his limbs made straight. But the name continued the same forever. The first verse is a question by King Janaka. How can knowledge be acquired? How can liberation be attained? How is renunciation possible? Tell me this, O Lord. And the reply comes by Ashtavakra in about 18 verses. fact, let's chant it close. Janakauvacha katam jnanamavapnoti katam muktir bhavishyati vairagyam cha katam praptam etad bruhi mama prabho ashtavakrauvacha muktimicchasi chetat vishayan vishayatyaja Kshama arjavadaya tosha satyam piyusha vadubhaja na prithvi na jalam na agni na vayurdyaur na vabhavan yesham sakshinam chidrupam vidhi muktaye yadi deham pratakritya Chiti vishramya tishtasi adunaiva sukhi shanto bandhamukto bhavishyasi natvam vipradiko varno nashrami naksha gocharaha asangosi nirakaro vishwasakshi sukhi bhava dharma dharmau sukham dukkam Manasani na te vibho na kartasi na bhoktasi muktayevasi sarvada eko drashtasi sarvasya mukta prayosi sarvada ayameva hito bandho drashtaram pashyasitaram Aham kartyetyaham manam Mahakrishna hi darshitaha Naham karteti vishwa Samritam pitva sukhi bhava Eko vishuddha bodhoham Iti nischaya vannina Prajvalya jnana gahanam Vita shoka sukhi bhava Yatra vishwam hidam bhati Kalpitam rajju sarpavat Ananda paramanandaha Sabodho swam sukham bhava Mukta bhimani mukto hi Baddho baddha bhimanyapi Kim vadantiha satyeyam Yamati sagatir bhavat Atma sakshi vibhu purno Eko muktischidakriyah Asango nispraha shanto Brahmat samsara vaniva Kutastam bodham advaitam Atmanam paribhavaya Abhasoham brahmam mutva Bhavam brahmamatantaram Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Thank you, Gayatri Govinda. Now, Swaminathan Venkatraman is going to chant.
Namaskar, everyone. I don't have as much to say about Martin as certainly the two Peters did wonderfully. But I was fortunate enough to be part of the group of 3, 4, 5 people, which would often include Mohan himself and Satish as well, and Arthur in chanting these, in doing Vedic chanting at the ashram from time to time. I thought I would just mention one thing that, in addition to what Peter said, that probably shows Martin's sense of humor as well. We were talking about how the live Vedas that Peter said, and that they would do it on Saturday evenings in the ashram. So Martin called it Saturday Night Live, which I thought, which made me burst, brought a nice smile to my face. And I think he would always say, Swami, you should come over every Saturday to chant. And it's my eternal I guess, bad fortune that I never did that. I was here in New Jersey, a couple of hours away, but I could only make it on a few occasions, not with any degree of regularity. But that humorous, sort of easygoing, unassuming nature is the biggest thing that that sort of sits, that I remember when I think about Martin. He also used to like stotras in Sanskrit, and Asha presented one of them. There was one other stotra which he liked, which fortunately I happen to know as well, which is the Nirvana Shatkam, composed by Shankaracharya as an 8-year-old boy. So I thought, as a homage to Martin, I would sing that song tonight. Mano buddhyahankara Chetaninaaham nacha shrotra jihve nacha ghrana netre nacha vyoma bhumir na tejo na vayu chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham nacha prana sankhyo navai panchavayuhu nava saptadhatuhu nava panchakoshaha navakpanipadam nachopasthapayu chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham name dvesha ragau name lobha mohau mado naiva me naiva matsarya bhavaha na dharmo na chartho na kamo na moksha chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham na punyam na papam na saukhyam na dukkham na mantro na tirtham na veda na yajñah aham भोजनम् नैव भोज्यं न भोक्ता चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् न मृत्युर्न शङ्का न मे जातिभेदः पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्मः न बन्धुर्न मित्रम् गुरुर्नैव शिष्यम् चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् अहं निर्विकल्पो निराकाररूपो विभूत्वाच्च सर्वत्र सर्वेन्द्रियाणाम् न चासङ्गतं नैव मुक्तिर्न मेयः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्
Thank you, Swami. Leena Gurunath is going to chant.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Shivaya Namah Shivaharaya Namah Om Shivaya Namah Shivaharaya Namah Om Arunachala Guruvaraya Namah Om Shivaya Namah Shivaharaya Namah Om Ramana Ishvara Guruve Namaha Saddarshana Upadeshtre Namaha Shonadrisha Stuti Drashte Namaha Shonadrisha Stuti Drashte Namaha Shivaya Namah Shivaharaya Namah Shivaya Namah Shivaharaya Namah Parama Pavitra Shiva Gurunatha Trigunatigaya Sachitananda Bhavaroga Vishakvaraya Namaha Bhavaroga Vishakvaraya Namaha Shivaya Namah Shivaharaya Namah Shivaya Namah, Shivaharaya Namah, Arunachala Guruvaraya Namah, Arunachala Ramaneshwaraya Namah, Shivaya Namah, Shivaharaya Guruvaraya Shankaraya Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Thank you, Leena ji. Now, Vishwanathan Rajagopalan will speak a few words. Vishwanathan.
Thank you, Mohanji. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana. My connection with Martin began with chanting the sacred Vedas at the New York ashrama. His pursuit towards perfection always amazed me, not only in chanting the mantras, but also in wearing the appropriate attire. I especially enjoyed whenever we split into two groups, wherein he and I would be in one group and Peter on the other, and we alternated the verses from Upanishads and other Vedic hymns in a responsorial mode. And it was, in my understanding, it was the inspiration largely from Martin that we were able to do that. And I'm very, very thankful for that. I think he took his health with some element of healthy humor, I believe. Once he had some wound in his foot, and as he was recovering, I asked him how his foot is. He said, like, the foot is good and good enough to shovel a foot of snow. And I feel he was able to see himself beyond his physical appearance, in spite of his health conditions. We were once discussing about whether he would be able to attend Flushing Hindu temple's monthly Ekadash Rudra Parayana right after Ashrama's Gita Parayana, which also included Rudram. And at that time, he was coming out of some symptoms like cough, wheezing, and all those things. And he said, we will have to see what Mr. Body says. Nonetheless, we will miss his physical presence. The grace of his physical presence, it is a source of inspiration for me, either remotely or live. I'm remembered of a verse from Yoga Vasishta, in which Sri Rama says, Akhurmarjara Kirneva Maranena Avalokyate. Death is incessantly staring and growling at our face, as a cat looks and purrs at the mouse in order to devour it. Martin would have understood the import of this verse with the blessings of Sri Bhagavan, and certainly he is at a better place. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana.
Thank you, Vishwanathan. Now I am going to chant the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. This chapter always holds a special significance at the passing away of the people. In this particular chapter, Arjuna urges Krishna to tell him about the nature of the self, God, and the action. He also asks Krishna to explain worship and how to be with God at the time of death. Krishna explains that true freedom is union with the deathless or God. He defines action as the self's creative power that causes the whole world to be. Human beings will enter whatever state they are in at the moment of their death. Therefore, because one never knows the time of one's death, it is essential to meditate at all times. This way, a person who thinks of Krishna or the Lord, when their last breath is taken, will be with the God. And Krishna tells Arjuna to meditate on the guide as brilliant as the sun. And this chapter also explains the transition of the soul from death to the higher levels. Om Shri Krishna Parabrahmane Namah. Atha Ashtamodhyaya. Arjuna Uvacha. Kim Tad Brahma Kim Adhyatmam. Kim Karma Purushottama. Adhibhutam cha kim proktam. Adhidaivam kim uchyate. Adhiyagna khatam kotra. Dehesmin madasudana. Prayana kale cha khatam. Neyo signiyatatmabihi. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Sabhavodhyatmam uchyate. Bhuta bhavottaro vithargaha karma sangnitaha adibhutam ksharo bhavaha purushasya daivatam adiyagnohamevatra dehe dehabrutam vara antatkale chamameva smaran muktakale varam yat prayati samadbhavam Yati nastyatra samshayah yam yam vapi smaran bhavam jajjatyante kalevaram tam tameva iti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitah tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanasmura yudhyacha mayyarpitamano buddhihi mame vaishasya samshayam Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasanagamidam paramam purusham divyam yati parthanu chintayam kavim purana manushasitaram anoraniyam samanusmaredyaham sarvasya dhataram anchitjarupam aditya varnam tamasah parastat Prayana kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaivam Bruvor madhye pranamavesha samyakva satam param purushamupaiti divyam yadaksharam vedavido vadanti vishanti yadyatayo vitaragaham yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti Tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe sarvadvarani samyankya manohrudi nirudhyacham murjha jayatmanha pranam astito yogadharanam vomitye kaksharam brahma vyaharantma manusmaram yat prayati chajanteham sayati paramam gatim Ananya chetha satatam yo mam smarati nityashah tasyaham sulabha partha nityayuktasya yoginah mam upetya punarjanma dukkalayama shashvatam natnuvanti mahatmanah samsiddhim paramam gataham abhrahma bhuvanalokaham Punaravartino Arjunam Mamupechatu Kaunteya Punarjanmana Vidyate Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyad Brahmano Viduhu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vido Janaham Avyakta Avyaktaya Sarvaham Prabhavancha Haragame Raja game praliyante tatraiva vyakta sangnakhe bhuta gramasa evayam bhutva bhutva praliyate raja game vashaparta prabhavatya haragame parastasmatu bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaham Yas sarveshu bhuteshu nachatsu na vinashati avyaktoksara ityuktah tamahu paramam gatim yam prapyana nivartante taddhama paramam mamam purushasa parapartha bhaktya labhasvananyaya yasyam sthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam yatra kale panavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaham prayata yantitam kalam vakshami bharatarshapam agnir jyotirah shuklah Chanmasa uttarayanam tatra prayata gachanti brahma brahma vido janaham dhumo ratristatha krishnaha Chanmasa dakshinayanam tatra chandramasam jyotihi yogir prapya nivartate shukla krishne gati hete jagatah shashvate mate Yekaya yatanya vrittim anyaya vartate punaham rite skriti partha janam yogi mukhyati kaschanam tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavajunam vedeshu yagneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punya palam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva Yogi param stanamupaiti chadyam Om Tat Satiti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Akshara Parabrahma Yogo Namam Ashtamodhyaya Shri Krishna Arpanamastu Harihi Om. Now, Aparna Subramaniam is going to chant.
Namaskar.
Yeah.
Namaskar, everybody. First of all, our very heartfelt, deep condolences to the sister of my heart, Billy, Alicia, and Diana, and all members of the Wolff family. When Mohan called yesterday and said, Aparna, would you like to say a few words about Martin and chant something, I readily agreed. Only to realize after that I could never try to script something in my head or put it down on paper. So I have no script with me. I have not planned what I want to say. Because it is just disbelief, denial, and grief that seems to overtake any words that want to form. So I am going to bootstrap by quoting a couple of lines from one of our dear friends, Guru Madhavan, who had expressed his remembrance of Martin to Billy. And after that, I am just going to close my eyes and allow the emotions to form whatever words wants to flow out. So Guru had written to Billy, and I quote, "We are grateful to Martin in many indescribable ways. The best the mind wants to do now is close the eyes, tune the ears to listen to Martin's chants from the permanent collection of our hearts. That's how journeys began for so many of us and will continue." End quote. And this is what I am going to do now. Holding your hands, Billy, and joining in the grief and in the love, the humility and all the inspiration that Martin stood for, and you stood shoulder to shoulder right beside him. I'm going to just let the words flow and share with you some small part of this journey, this pilgrimage on earth, along with a fellow traveler, Martin Wolff, that Bhagavan so graciously blessed us to have as a fellow traveler. So like many of you, I also saw Martin early on in the late 90s, early 2000, singing at various events. And even though the first feeling was that of awe, it was soon transported. I was lost in the greater purpose of Martin's chanting. And that continued every encounter, every time we sat to listen to Peter and Martin and other chanters do the Veda Parayana at the ashram. So once in late 2016 or 2017, I gathered enough courage and I casually mentioned to Martin, I would really like to learn to chant Rudram and Chamakam. He said, sure, let me know whenever you're ready, I'll teach you, I'll help you. Not teach you, I'll help you. So then a few more episodes, we had a few more events at the ashram. And one time when it was just Peter and Martin, Dennis and Raja and I at the shrine, I was again, like everyone else, so lost in the chanting that I made a very ardent prayer to Bhagavan. And I said, Bhagavan, before the end of this physical journey for me on earth, I hope I get the blessing to chant Rudram and Chamakam at your shrine. And Bhagavan listens. Oh, yes, he does listen to our prayers. So began my journey in 2019. So I decided we will start Veda Parayana. I very reluctantly, I dragged Raja also, who, little bit of hesitation first joined me. And then we started our Veda Parayana with Martin every week, every Thursday. So right after school and Raja comes back from work, we would go to Martin's house and we started our Veda Parayana sessions. So it was just not learning from him. It was, the whole experience, the love, the generosity, the hospitality, and then of course the teaching. Martin was a phenomenal teacher. His pedagogy was so perfect. Now, I had some background in Devanagari and Sanskrit, having learned it in school and college, but it was very new to Raja. And initially, I was a little frustrated at Raja and said, Raja, come on, you're going to really slow me down. But Martin taught me how to be patient. He said, no, he was very patient. He would go through every little phrase and he would help Raja with all the pronunciations and then me also. Very meticulous. Whenever needed, he would give us the grammar lessons behind it. And so our journey began. It started January 2019, and almost every Thursday, we would be there. It became a very big purpose for Raja and me. It took us almost 6 to 7 months for us to get through the first Anuvaka in Rudram. That is how meticulous Martin was. And the journey continued. So we not only had this very soulful sessions every week, but we also had some good laughs. We would talk about so many other things, days at school, other experiences, our neighbors, the weather, politics, so that it became an extension of our family meeting. And when the pandemic started, I think sometime around August of 2020, we decided to have our sessions over Zoom. So every Saturday, we had our Zoom sessions. And then January of this year, the third week of January of this year, we finished the entire Rudram Chamakam. And Martin was so happy. It was a very big milestone for Raja and I, but he shared in this happiness too. So for the last 2 years, almost every week, Raja and I, and then sometimes Varun, sometimes my nephew, sometimes Varsha, whenever we had these sessions, it became a very consistent, it became a very, very tight family knit event. And it became a very large purpose of our life. So through all this Veda chants, Martin will always be in our hearts, in each one of a devotee's hearts. And he has left very, very big shoes for Raja and me to fill with the legacy that he has left us with having taught us the entire Rudram and Chamakam. And we were really looking forward to chanting it together. He would say, I just can't wait when we can all say it together. So Veda chanting for us will always be our prayer and hymn to the wider grace of Bhagavan that Martin has now merged into. Martin has also touched our children's life. So Varun, Raja, and I are going to chant a small part of Rudram Chamakam, after which I am very boldly going to attempt to chant the Shanti Mantra, the Maha Shanti Mantra that was so dear to Martin. And Martin, I shall remember not to pass at the Avagraha and to aspirate where I have to. Take the breath at the end of the sentence. And any mistake that I commit in any of the chantings today or later on is solely mine. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Om Ganana Antva Ganapati Gun Havamahe Kavin Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anah Shrunvannoti Bhissida Sadanam. Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha. Om सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ शञ्च मे मयश्च मे प्रियञ्च मेऽनुकामश्च मे कामश्च मे सौमनसश्च मे भद्रञ्च मे श्रेयश्च मे वस्यश्च मे यशश्च मे भगश्च मे द्रविणञ्च मे यन्ता च मे धर्ता च मे क्षेमश्च मे धृतिश्च मे विश्वं च मे महश्च मे संविच्च मे ज्ञात्रं च मे सूश्च मे प्रसूश्च मे सीरं च मे लयश्च मरुतं च मे मृतं च मे यक्ष्मं च मे नामयश्च मे जीवातुश्च मे दीर्घायुत्वं च मे न मित्रं च मे भयं च मे सुखं च मे शयनं च मे सुषा च मे सुदिनं च मे ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः The Mahashanti Mantra. Om Prithvi Shanta Sagnina Shanta Same Shanta Shuchagum Shamayatu Antarikshagum Shantam Tadvayuna Shantam Tanme Shantagum Shuchagum Shamayatu Dhyau Shanta Sadityena Shanta Same Shanta Shuchagum Shamayatu Ritvi Shantirantariksha-gum Shanti Dhyo Shanti Disha Shantir Avantara Disha Shantir Agni Shanti Vayu Shantiraditya Shantish Chandrama Shanti Nakshatrani Shantir Apashantiroshadhaya Shanti Vanaspataya Shanti Gau Shanti Aja Shantir Ashva Shanti Purusha Shanti Brahma Shanti Brahmana Shanti Shanti Reva Shanti Shantir me astu Shantihi Tayahagum Shantya Sarva Shantya Mahyam Dvipade Chatushpade Cha Shantim Karomi Shantir me astu Shantihi Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Peace on earth. May Agni and the earth goddess remove my suffering. peace in the mid-region. May Vayu, God of the mid-region, remove my suffering. Peace in heaven. May Aditya, the God of heaven, remove my suffering. May there be peace on earth, peace in the ether, peace in the heavens, peace in all directions, peace in fire, peace in the air, peace in the sun, peace in the moon, peace in the constellations, peace in the waters, peace in the plants and herbs, peace in trees, peace towards cattle, peace towards goats, peace towards horses, peace towards mankind, peace in the absolute Brahman, peace in those who have attained Brahman. May there be peace, only peace. May that peace be in me, peace alone. Through that peace, may I confirm peace in myself and all bipeds and quadrupeds. May there be peace in me, peace alone. It's been an honor, Martin.
Thank you, Aparna and Rajan. Now, Malini Kumar will speak a few words. Malini, please.
Thank you, Anna. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Martin cannot be explained in a few words. He was a gem of a person. I had another connection with Martin through his guru, Sri Yajna Subramaniam. And many a times we have traveled to Strasbourg, and Martin was liked by Yajna Subramaniam. After his merging with Bhagavan, when I called Yajna Subramaniam's house to convey this message, Raji, his wife, picked up the phone and she said, Martin Malini, அவருக்கு ரொம்ப பிடிக்குமே Martin, ரொம்ப sincere student. And then he came online and he asked me for Billy's email address. And he said, I'm going to write to Billy. I'll send an email. Martin was one of his most sincere students. He mastered the Sanskritam language and also mastered the Krishna Yajurveda chanting of all the mantras. Once I had taken him to the Chandi Homam in Stroudsburg, and he chanted the Devi Saptasati, sitting there. With, he had no experience to chant that, but he followed the book and his pronunciation was better than mine. He also chanted the Durga Suktam 108 times there. Martin also has come to many Navaratri Puja with me. Martin is very dear to me, and it is good, as Billy said, that he has been relieved from pain. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Thank you, Malini Kumar. Now, Sangeeta Swaminathan is going to chant the Sharanagati. Sangeeta.
Sharanagati Parana Kini Pugatudaidan Edu இனி புக துணைதான் ஏது நீ புகழாய் சரணாகதி ஸ்மரணாகதி பல அருணாச்சலவிதை ரமணா ஸ்மரணாகதி பல அருணாச்சலவிதை ரமணா கருணா வருணா ஸ்ரீ ரமணா கருணா வருணா சரணாகதி தருணம் இது அன்றோவும் கருணை நோக்கவே தருணம் இது அன்றோவும் கருணை நோக்கவே கால ஹரணமாகிடு செய்வே கால ஹரணமாகிடு செய்வே துன்பை நீக்கி இயல்பை அழிக்க எனபா உலக துன்பை நீக்கி இயல்பை அழிக்க எனபா ஞானம் பாராமுகம் காளாதையா ஸ்ரீவேதிய ஞானம் பாராமுகம் தாளாதைய ஸ்ரீரமண சரணாகதி பரணா இனி புக துணைதான் ஏது நீ புகழாய் சரணாகதி.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Swaminathan. Now, Rishabha Swaminathan is going to chant the Vedas. Prashant Vishweshwaran is going to chant the Arunachala Pancharatnam. Prashant?
Yes, Anna.
Yeah, please go ahead.
There is just one small thing I'd like to mention. Every time we used to meet Martin and Billy in the ashram, there is something that I'm going to miss about Martin, is his bear hug. Every time I used to meet him in ashram. Of course, Billy, I continue to hope to get more bear hugs from you when I meet you at Arunachala Ashram, and that won't stop. But Martin's a very special person, and I will always remember him. We'll always remember him. Shobhanandai. Karuna Purna Sudapte Kabalita Gana Vishwarupa Kirana Valya Arunachala Paramatman Aruno Bhavachitta Kanja Suvikasaya Tvai Arunachala Sarvam Bhutva Stitva Pralinameta Chitram Hridyahamityatmataya Nritya Sivoste Vadanti Hridayam Nama Ahamiti Kutayati Tanvishyanta Pravishtayatyamaladiyam Avagamya Swam Rupam Samyat Arunachala-tvai Nadivabdhav Tyaktva Vishayam Bhakyam Rudda Pranena Rudda Manasandastvam Dhyayan Pashyati Yogi Dididitam Arunachala-tvai Yamte Tvai arpita manasa tvam pashyan sarvam tava kritaya satatam bhajate ananya pritya sajayat tarunachala tvai sukhe magnaha Srimad Ramana Maharshe Darshanam Arunachalasya Devagiram Panchakamarya Gitau Ratnam Tuidamau Panishadam Hi.
Thank you, Prashant and Shobhana. Now, Rishabha Swaminathan is going to chant the Vedas.
Brahmametu mam madhumetu mam brahmameva madhumetu mam yaste somah prajavatsavi so aham tushvapnahan durushaha yaste somah pranagastan juhumi Trisuparnamayachitam brahmana yadadyat Brahmahatyam va yethe gnanti ye brahmanas trisuparnam patanti te somam prapnuvanti asahasrat panktim punanti om brahma medhaya madhumedhaya brahmameva madhumedhaya Adyano deva savitah prajavatsavi saubhagam paradushvapniyagum suva vishvani deva savitar duritani parashuva yadbhadram tanma ashuva madhuvatartayate madhuksharanti sindhavah madhvirna santavoshadih मधुनक्तमुतोषसि मधुमत्पार्थिवगुं रजः मधुद्योरस्तु नः पिता मधुमान्यो वनस्पतिर्मधुमागुम् अस्तु सूर्यः माध्वीर्गावो भवन्तु नः य इमं त्रिसुपर्णमयाचितं ब्राह्मणाय दद्यात् भ्रूणहत्यां वा ये ते घ्नन्ति ये ब्राह्मणास्त्रिसुपर्णं पठन्ति ते सोमं प्राप्नुवन्ति असहस्रात् पङ्क्तिं पुनन्ति ॐ ब्रह्ममेधवा मधुमेधवा ब्रह्ममेव मधुमेधवा ब्रह्मादेवानां पदवीः कवीनां ऋषिर्विप्राणां महिषो मृगाणां श्येनो गृध्रानागस्वदितिर्वनानागुं सोमः पवित्रमत्येति रेभन् हगुंसशुचि सद्वसुरन्तरिक्षसद्धोता वेदि सदतिर्दुरो न सत् नृसद्वरसद्धृतसद्व्योमसदब्जागो जारतजा अद्रिजारतं बृहत् ऋचेत्वर्चेत्वा समित्स्रवन्तिः सरितो नधेना अन्तर्हृदा मनसा पूयमानाः घृतस्य धारा अभिचाकशीमि हिरण्ययो वेतसो मध्यासाम् तस्मिन् सुपर्णो मधुकृत्कुलायी भजनास्ते मधुदेवताभ्यः तस्यासते हरयः सप्तधीरे स्वदां दुहाना अमृतस्य धाराम् य इमं त्रिसुपर्णमयाचितं ब्राह्मणाय दद्यात् वीरहत्यां वा ये ते घ्नन्ति ये ब्राह्मणास्त्रिसुपर्णं पठन्ति ते सोमं प्राप्नुवन्ति असहस्रात् पङ्क्तिं पुनन्ति ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Thank you.
Thank you, Rushabha. Now Peter Fell is going to chant the Vedas. Peter.
Namaskaram. I will chant the Purusha Suktam. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Om Ganana Tva Ganapatikum Havamahe Kavin Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashranbandho Tidhisita Sadanam Om Shri Maha Ganapataye Namaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinapatitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sahasrashirusha Purushaha Sahasrakshas Sahasrapat Sabhomim Vishpato Vritva Atyatishthadashangulam Purusha evedagum sarvam yadbhotam yachabhavyam utamratatvasyeşanah yadannena tirohati etavanasya mahima atho jaya guscha purushah pado asya vishva bhutani tripatasya mrutam divi tripadurdhva udai purushah Pado asyeha bhavat punah tato vishvan yakramat sashana nashane abhi tasma advirata jayata virajo adhipurushah sajato atyarichyata paschad bhomimatho purah yat purushena havisha Deva yajnamatanvata vasanto asyasidajyam Grishma idma sharadhavihi saptasyasan paridhayah Trisapta samitah kratah Deva yajnam tanvanah Abadhan purusham pashum Tam yajnam barahishi praokshanda Purusham jatamagratah Tena deva ayajanta Sadhya rashayaschaye Tasma'ad yajnat sarvahutah Sambhrutam purushadajyam Pashogastaguschakreva yavyan Aranyan gramyaschaye Tasma'ad yajnat sarvahutah Rachasamani jagnire Chandagum sijagnire Tasma'ad Yajustasmat ajayata Tasmat ashva ajayanta Yeke cho bhayatataha Gavo hajagnire Tasma'ad Tasma'ad jata ajabayaha Yat purusham yadadho Katidham yagalpayan Mukham kimastya kao bahu Ka urupadhavuchyete Brahmano asya mukhamasit Bahurajanyah krutah Urutadasya yajvaishyah Padbyagum shudra ajayata Chandrama manaso jatah Chaksha surya ajayata Mukhadindraschagnischa Pranadvajurajayata Nabhya asitantariksham Shirshnaadya samavartata Padhyam bhomirtisashrotraat Tatha lokagum agalpayan Vedahametam purusham mahantam Adityavarnam tamasastu pare Sarvani rupani vichitya dhiraha Namani krutva bhivadan yadaste Dhata purastadyamuda jahara Shakrah pravidvan pratishaschatasraha Tamevam vidvan amruta iha bhavati Nanyah pantha ayanaya vidyate Yajnena yajnamayajanta devaha Tani dharmani prathamanyasana Te hanakam mahimanasya jante Yatra purve sadhyas santi devaha Adhyas sambhotah prathaviyairasa acha Vishvakarmanas samavartatadhi Tasyat pashtavidadhat rupameti Tat purushasya vishvamajanamagre Vedahametam purusham mahantam Adityavarnam tamasah parastat Tamevam vidvanamruta iha bhavati Nanyah pantha vidyate yanaya Prajapatischarati gardhe antah Ajayamano bahudha vijayate Tasya dhirah parijananti yonan Marichinam padamichanti vetasah Yo devebhya atapati Yo devana purohitah Purvo yo devebhya jatah Namo rajayat brahmanye Rajam brahmam janayantah Deva agre tadadbravanna Yastvaivam brahmano vidyat Tasya deva asanvashe Rishchate lakshmishcha patno Ahoratre parshve Nakshatrani rupam Ashvino vyattam Ishtam manishana Amum manishana Sarvam manishana Tachanyora vrimahe Gatum yajnaya Gatum yajnapataye Taini swasti vastunah Swastarmanoshebhyah Urdhvam jigato bhejajam Shanno astud vipade Shan chatushpade Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Yo Devana Prathamam Purastat Vishvadhiyo Rudra Maharshihi Hiranyagarbham Pashyata Jayamanagum Sano Deva Shubhaya Smrtya Sanyunaktu Yasmat Paranna Paramasti Kinchid Yasman Nani Yonajaya Asti Kashchita Vraksha ivastabdhati vitishthate kastenetam purnam purushena sarvam na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyagenaike amrutatvama parena nakam nihitam guhayam vidbhajate tajjatayo vishanti Vedanta vijnana sunishchitartha sannyasa yoga jataya shuddha sattva Te brahmanoge tu para antakare paramrutat parimuchyanti sarve Dakhram vipapam parame eshma bhutam yat pundarikam puramadhyasagustham Tatrapi dakhram gaganam vishakastasnini yatam tastarupasitavyam Yo vedado svarah prokto vedante cha pratishtitaha Tasya prakriti linasya yah paras samaheshwaraha.
Thank you, Peter. Before we end this extraordinary homage to our brother Martin Wolff, always in our thoughts will be Billy, Diane, Alicia, and Cliff, his brother, and their extended families. Let Bhagavan bless all of them, and I'm very sure we'll all be in touch with each other. The next satsang will be a week from today at 10 a.m. And we are going to celebrate the Shivaratri festival on March 11 from the ashram on the Zoom with the Ekadashi Rudram, Mahanarayana Upanishad, and probably preceding that, a small satsang of an hour. And thank you, all of you. I know it became almost 2 hours and 20 minutes satsang, probably the longest we have done from here. And Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.